Welcome to Navigating the Customer Experience. Want to improve your organization's customer service? Looking for insider tips to knock your customer socks off? Then you're in the right place. Here's your host, Yannick Grant.
Welcome to Navigating the Customer Experience. On today's episode, we have with us a very special guest, and his name is Alexander Genov, but we're going to affectionately refer to him as Alex for the purpose of this interview. Alex is an experienced customer research professional who applies his experimental social psychology background and his passion for research, design, and innovation to solving important customer and business problems. His professional goal is to help teams create remarkable products and services which make people's lives easier and more enjoyable. Currently, Alex is leading customer research for the Zappos Family of Companies. In previous positions, he was responsible for research and usability of the products and services for companies like TurboTax, also known as Intuit, State Farm Insurance, and the Active Network. He has over 15 years of relevant experience, 5 years of academic research, and over 10 years of customer research in the software industry. Alex received his Ph.D. in experimental social psychology from Clark University, and his areas of research include defining and measuring emotions, individual differences, usability, and consumer segmentation. So without further delay, welcome, Alex.
Thank you so much, Yannick. I don't think I've ever been introduced so warmly before, so I'm honored to be on part of your podcast.
Thank you. So, Alex, I want you to take, the first couple minutes and just share with our audience a little bit about yourself, how you got on this journey of customer research. What propelled you into this particular industry and this sphere?
Absolutely, Yannick. Yes. So as you pointed out in the intro, in my short bio there, my background is in psychology. That's my passion, is understanding people. And more specifically, my specialization was understanding emotions and how we define emotions, how we measure emotions, how people experience emotions. It's not, the area of emotion is not as simple as it sounds. On the face of it, we all experience emotions, we all talk about it. But what I found through many years of deep research and study of emotions is that it differs how we not only how we talk about emotions, but how we experience them, and measuring them is a tricky thing. So that's my specialty, and also another area of expertise I brought from psychology was individual differences, and that's something I believe deeply in, which is that not all people are different, and by the same token, not all customers are different. And in my career, I've been trying to help companies understand customers as people and understand the individual differences that are important for each specific industry and each specific product. So that's kind of my academic background. And then I was initially headed to be a professor, but soon gave up the idea because I didn't want to be poor for many, many years. I kind of sold out to the software industry. No regrets. But it's been an interesting challenge and a lot of fun experiences trying to bring rigor to research in the industry, but also to make it practical. So that's been the biggest challenge for me all along, is to kind of walk that fine line, keep that balance between keeping the organization honest in terms of research, but also being practical and not being too academic and kind of obstructionist in that way.
Understood. Amazing. All right. So you have a wealth of experience in social psychology, and that sounds like really high level. So I want you to break it down for our audience in the simplest possible terms. What does that mean, and how does that connect to customer experience?
Sure. So there are many areas of psychology when you start specializing in it. So one area is, for example, social psychology. Another area is personality psychology, which is a bit more focused on the individual. Another area is clinical psychology. So these are people who help people with mental problems and so on.
Right.
And I picked social psychology because, to be honest, it was the most interesting to me. And when I was studying it, all the really fun experiments from the 50s and 60s that really kind of make our jaws drop nowadays. But they're all designed to understand people in the sense that, how is our behavior determined and motivated by the real or imagined presence of others. So that's the definition of social psychology. But the methods that I brought with me to the industry are essentially the methods of scientific psychology, which is, which are based on the empirical method of research. And the most kind of defining feature of that is the question, how do you know? So when we talk about something and we say, I believe this and that to be true, some people may be fine by saying, I feel it in my gut and that's what I believe. Or they say, I know it from experience and I know it to be true. But an empiricist would say, well, how do you know? Do you have the data to look at and to measure? And empiricism is basically this belief that we all have to have some kind of shared experience to be able to determine that something is the case. So, for example, if I ask you what the temperature is, and you tell me 72 degrees, then we can both look at the thermometer and agree that that's the case. When it comes to emotions, you see how that becomes tricky to say, okay. How do you feel? And then you may say, I feel happy, but many times we don't have direct access to our emotions, or we cannot articulate them, or we don't want to share them. So that's where it gets tricky. How do you measure, how you define emotions? So, for example, you can define them by the facial expression, which is a behavioral indicator. You can define it by overt behavior. Are people jumping with joy, literally, right? Or are they running away? And also, we always ask people. You can always ask them, how do you feel? But again, one of the principles of research that I brought with me to the industry was to measure the same thing using different methods and to triangulate the results so that we have higher degree of confidence that what we're saying we're measuring is exactly what we intended to measure. So I don't want to get too technical here, but that's
basically the background.
Yeah.
All right. So let's connect all of that to the Zappos experience, right?
Right.
We talk about Zappos all the time in workshops, and people think about Zappos as the customer experience guru in the retail market, especially in the online space. I mean, they basically came in and they transformed how retail business is done online. I mean, the fact that, they have a 365-day return policy. If you call them, somebody's going to answer the phone. Even when you go on their website, unlike other websites, every single page on their website has their telephone number at the top. So at the end of the day, when somebody has an issue, or when a customer has an issue, whether it is to make a request or it is to query something that they have, a product or service that they have already engaged you for, a lot of times they want to speak with a live human being. And sometimes it's so hard navigating on these organizations' websites. You have to, some of them don't have a phone number. They have this, contact us page where you have to type out your entire request or issue and then wait for somebody from their company to respond to you. So the fact that Zappos actually makes themselves available by providing a telephone number on all their pages really sets them apart. So talk to me a little bit about, the research that you've found, what works, what doesn't work. You said individual differences, and you said sometimes customers are pretty much the same, to which I do agree, because at the end of the day, customers are human beings, and regardless of their background, their ethnicity, their religion, we all have feelings and emotions, and we feel good when we have a great experience, and we feel bad when we don't get what we expect.
Exactly. Yes, Inik, you hit the nail on the head there. So, I mean, first of all, I joined Zappos about 4 years ago, and I can take absolutely no credit in its incredible success over the years. Maybe just I've contributed something in the past 4 years, but indeed, the company was formed early on, um, based on the belief that it will be successful only if they make their customers happy, the employees happy, and the vendors happy. That was the focus. And I mean, Tony Hsieh, when he started investing in the company, basically he was intensely focused on the customer experience and on making this very new behavior, which is buying shoes online, as easy as possible. And so we're talking about 15, 16 years ago, they realized that in that kind of business, things usually will sometimes go wrong. And you cannot prevent that, but what you can do is to do everything to make it right by the customer. So one of the initial defining moments was when something went wrong with an order and a customer was not happy, but then they went out of their way to make it right. And then that person wrote an email, and in the subject matter, she started by saying, using the word wow. And I mean, bear in mind, this is 15, 16 years ago. Now everybody's talking about wowing customers, but that was so long ago. And then at that point, they realized, okay, this is going to be our defining characteristic is going to be customer service. And at a time when everybody was considering customer service a cost to be cut, Zappos said that's who we are, and we're going to invest in that. And that's really this counterintuitive, in a way, thinking has led to its success, because the whole belief is that, we're selling shoes that are also available in other stores or in other places, and if we do all the same things that other retailers do, and if we compete on price and we compete on cutting costs, then we're just going to be another retailer. And you know what's happening with retail nowadays. That's just
oh yeah.
So this was decided so many years ago. I mean, sometimes it's really because I'm a proponent of the online experience. Sometimes this intense focus on customer service can be a point of frustration, because I'm thinking, can we focus a bit more on the website, right? But then you think back, you realize what the roots are, and also we have a saying at Zappos that Zappos is a customer service company that just happens to sell shoes right now, right?
Excellent, excellent.
Yeah.
And I think if all businesses looked at their companies like that, I'm just an airline, or I'm a customer service company that just happens to be in the airline business, transporting people from one location to the next for all different reasons, weddings, business, vacation, then, and they realize that their focus is on service, because without these customers, we have no business. I think it would really change the mindset and propel, it would be like a paradigm shift in how we as customers experience business. Exactly.
And I mean, yeah, and it would help to have some competition. I think it's I mean, some industries are much more like monopolies, right?
True.
When you have less choice, then there's much less pressure to be customer centric.
Very true.
In general, but I think you're absolutely right. So I saw one question here in your outline about what business owners can think of and what's going to make them successful, and it's very simple. It's just focus on the customer, and of course you have to have your business plan and you have to have your operations to be excellent.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot be intensely focusing on the customer and giving away free product, and you're going to be in business for maybe 3 days. We'll have very happy customers, but very short-lived success, right? So you need to have your financials work out, but beyond that, I mean, I love Zappos because it's a company that's focused on purpose before profit, right? So it's a very subtle but very important difference. If you say I'm in there for the profit, then you're going to be making all those decisions that ultimately end up hurting customers.
True, very true.
If you're saying I'm here for the purpose, then but also make sure that you are making profit, and ultimately if you're making customers happy, they will be loyal customers, and then they will be telling others about your business. So another thing that sets Zappos apart is that we don't do really traditional advertising, right? We don't pour millions into TV ads, for example. But people know about us from word of mouth, from other things that we do that benefit the community, and so on. And we have very strong social media presence. So that's another lesson for entrepreneurs and for business folks, is focus on the customer, focus on the community, do good things for the community and for the customer, and then you're going to have those customers that are not only customers, but they're going to be your ambassadors. They're going to spread the word about you. So you're going to be saving a lot of money on advertising, essentially, and marketing.
So we spoke a little bit about word of mouth advertising and, Zappos' approach. Your role at Zappos is research, and I have a lot of listeners who listen to this podcast who aren't necessarily in a structured type of business where, there's, it's a big conglomerate type of business. A lot of them are small business owners. Why do you think it's important? Could you share with them why you think it's important for them to maybe invest, even if it's themselves doing the research initially? Why is research important to helping you grow the business and becoming more customer centric?
Yeah, absolutely, Nick, and you're absolutely right. It's if you're a small company, you cannot really afford PhDs and specialists to do this for you, but you can do it yourself to a large degree. And why is it important? It's because if you want to make some customers happy, now we talk a lot about personalization, a lot about meeting the customer needs or the jobs to be done, then if you don't know your customers, you're probably going to be basing decisions on your own experience. And if you are lucky to have a lot of customers just like yourself, then so be it, right? I mean, you don't have to do any research. But if you want to differentiate yourself, right, you need to understand a little bit of the competition, but mostly the customer. So, I mean, there's different types of businesses. If, for example, you're a corner coffee shop, right, you're going to be providing the staples. You may walk around the neighborhood, see what the other coffee shops charge, and you're going to price your offering accordingly. And then there's not much to research about, what people need. It's coffee, pastries, right?
Right.
But here's an example from, and you asked also, one of the questions was what books I've read recently that influenced me. There's one Harvard professor called Clayton Christensen, and he's been talking about jobs to be done for a long time, customer jobs to be done. And it's a variation of user needs or wants, but it's much more specific in the sense that he's saying customers are hiring you and your product to do specific jobs. And if you do the jobs, they'll continue hiring you. If not, they're gonna fire you and your product, right? So the example he gives is of a big breakfast chain here that they wanted to grow their milkshake business, and they were having a hard time selling more milkshakes. So they hired this company to really observe people and how they buy milkshakes, and then they talk to people. And what they found was that the same person stopping by in the morning and stopping by in the afternoon had different needs when it comes to milkshakes. So in the morning, they were on their way to work, pretty long commute, and they needed a little bit of nourishment, right, like breakfast, but also they needed something to keep them occupied, right? They're in the car, sitting there bored. And so they designed these milkshakes with, of course, some nutritional value, but also with some chunks of stuff in the milkshake, so that, people would just, drink the milkshake and have something like some more sensation in their mouth, let's say, right? in the afternoon, when people stopped by after picking up their kids from daycare, and so we had kids in the back seat making noise and shouting and so on, hungry. So they were buying milkshakes for them, and the job to be done was to give them some nutrition, but also to keep them quiet back there. So they would design not only the milkshakes, but also the straws so that they're thinner, so they last longer, the milkshake lasts longer. And you understand the whole point of this is that if you did not observe people in action and didn't talk to them about why are you buying this, right? And what are you trying to achieve with that milkshake, then you would be in the dark. So some things are pretty straightforward, like opening a coffee shop with the staples. But even then, if you're really customer focused, then you'll know your customers, and when they come in, you know that this person, they have their usual, right?
True.
And you offer them that, or maybe they're upset, so you talk to them about what bothers them. I mean, bartenders are great at that, right?
Yes, exactly.
So they solve these emotional jobs to be done. They're like a friend for somebody who's a little bit down maybe, or doesn't have anybody to talk to at the moment. Mm-hmm. So anyway, the point is, all of this is based on knowing people and understanding people. And if you're just focused on your business and your numbers, and you don't see your customers as people, but just as walking wallets, then ultimately they'll find another place that treats them better.
Very true. That's so true. That's a very good point. And I think it's fair to say that regardless of where you are in the world, whether it's in North America, Asia, the Caribbean, South America, people are people, right?
Right. Exactly. So you have those basic needs and wants. And then when I was talking about individual differences, when it gets to be bigger businesses, right, that now start serving millions of people, or different types of different types of customers. So, for example, if you're a B2B business and you're selling something to a company, you have different interactions. So interact with for example, the CEO who's going to be signing the check ultimately, right?
Right.
And you're interacting with some procurement person who's responsible for implementing the system. And then you may or may not interact with the end users, but they're all different user groups, and they all have different mindsets, and they're going to have different interactions with the system, right?
True.
So that's a very simple form of segmentation based on role in a company. Now, if for Zappos, for example, to some extent, gender plays a role, of course, right? Because men's shoes are different from women's shoes, clothing. Mm-hmm. We have different kind of course, we dress somewhat differently.
Yes.
Yes, when I was working for TurboTax, for example, and it's a financial, do-it-yourself financial product, gender made no difference, right?
True.
In terms of how finances are kept, if anything, women are much better at keeping finances than men.
True.
But when it comes to how we understand the product, how you think about finances, there was no difference. So for each business, it's going to be a bit different.
That's true. And of course, you customize accordingly.
Exactly.
Right.
And so even if you go to just to finish the coffee shop example, I mean, maybe you have some customers that are vegan now, right? So you have the vegan customers and you have the ones that are not. So then it will be a kind of a surprise and delight for your customers to say, do you want regular milk or you want soy milk, let's say, right? Mm-hmm. But that's another example of maybe you segment based on taste and health preferences and so on.
Very true. All right. So, Alex, could you share with us what's the one online resource, tool, website, or app that you absolutely cannot live without in your everyday life, in your business?
I'm tempted to say Facebook, but I won't. No, I'm just kidding. No. I mean, I have my tools of the trade, like analytics program. I use SPSS because everybody at Zappos does hands-on work. I mean, there's no more managers there now, and it's a different self-organization kind of environment. Mm-hmm. And so I do a lot of most of my work is hands-on work. So we have a really powerful survey tool that we do a lot of surveys with our customers and with prospects, general population, U.S. shoppers.
Mm-hmm.
We collect information that way, and then I use an analytics tool called SPSS to do the analysis. We also collect a lot of text data, and it's very challenging to analyze sentiment. And we're talking about large volume here. Let's say 600,000 reviews, right, on the website, or even we do a survey, we get 3,000 verbatims, comments from customers in text form.
Wow.
It's very difficult to analyze. So now we're starting to explore a tool that's a very powerful text analytics tool,
Mm-hmm.
developed based on technology from the MIT Media Lab. And so you have the best scientists there working to develop this kind of artificial intelligence to extract meaning, for example, from text. And it's not as simple as just counting the number of times like a word appeared, right? But
Right.
it's connecting, extracting meaning, what word is connected to what, and so on. So these are some of the tools
that have definitely helped you to
of course,
function daily.
Oh yeah, and then of course Google is amazing. I mean, Google is like this really powerful software company that has created amazing technology. Like you have to find anything, you Google it, right, and you find it right away.
True, very true.
So that's one thing that I probably cannot function without.
All right. You shared one of the books that had a big impact on you. Are there any other books that have had big impacts on you over your years or during your career?
Yeah, for sure. So one of the key influences for me is this Italian designer called Roberto Verganti, and he wrote several books, but one of his key books is called Design Driven Innovation. And his main idea is that you need to understand customers as people, and that's been my kind of mission in the past couple of years. Is don't really just study customers as shoppers in the process of shopping or in the process of calling, but understand them holistically as people. And he has been advocating for this sort of radical innovation, which is you innovate on meaning of what things mean for people, and that's very hard to do, but it's gonna guarantee the biggest success. And so one of his examples is this company that was the leader in candles. So a few centuries ago, right? A couple of centuries ago, they were there for 100 years. They were the best, made the best candles, and then electricity came along, and instead of them kind of changing the meaning of what they were doing, they continued to focus on the light, how long the candle was lasting, how safe it is, right? All that stuff. And then, of course, they disappeared. They went out of business. And can you guess one candle company that is thriving nowadays?
I cannot.
Okay, it's called the Yankee Candle Company. It's very big in the United States. But the reason why they're so successful is that because they changed the meaning of what a candle means. It's not used for light, but it's used for mood, and they made it smell good.
Ah, because now that you say that, I think if I bought a candle, that would be my driving purpose.
Exactly. So, but you see how they changed the meaning because the other company was focused on safety and they didn't want the candle to smell, right? So, and then it lost its purpose over time. So that's what he talks about, understanding what things mean for people. Or another example is this great. And again, it's a lot of these are European Italian designers that create these objects. So this kettle, like for boiling water, and they made this kettle that looks pretty cool, but also was emitting this sound when it was ready, this kind of whistle.
Right.
And what the meaning there was that not only it's a tool for boiling water, but it's kind of a signal for the family to gather around the table. So that's kind of an example of, again, you think it's a simple object, and then people pay $500 for this, which on the face of it is silly, right?
Amazing.
But it's the shape, the meaning. So that would be a good question for all of your listeners is the business they're in. Are they innovating on that level versus just making things better the way they are? Keeping the same meaning but making it better.
True. Very true. Good question for you guys to really pencil out and think about and really try to understand as we come to the end of another year, calendar year, and we're embarking on a new calendar year. What are you doing differently, and how are you trying to reinvent your business or reinvent your product or service so that you can create innovation for your customers in a way that's meaningful to them, not necessarily you, right?
Exactly. That's the key thing. Exactly.
Can you share with us what's one thing that's going on in your life right now? Maybe something that you're really excited about, something you're working on to develop yourself or your people?
Yeah, I mean, outside of work, you mean?
It could be both or something personal, just something that you're excited about that you're working on now.
I mean, at work, I'm excited about a couple of big programs we're doing, which is the voice of the customer. We're enabling our customers that go on the website and don't call on the phones to give us feedback, and for the organization to be able to consume that feedback. So we're working hard on that. And again, exploring text analytics, it's going to open our eyes quite a bit. It's just a ton of data that has been left unexplored, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So that's at work. And then, personal life, I went back to a passion of mine, which is martial arts, after many years of not doing much. And in Las Vegas, if you believe it or not, there are actually Shaolin monks teaching
Wow.
sort of thing. So that's super exciting for me.
Amazing.
There's actually one Shaolin monk, authentic Shaolin monk, coming to visit to hold a seminar. So I'm going to be taking off some time from work to do that.
Very cool. All right. That sounds exciting. Because it's, in order to really live a very balanced and passionate life, you really have to take care of yourself as well.
That's exactly right. And for me, that's a metaphor of just, anything you do, it needs to happen through hard work. Nothing is, there's no hacks in life, let me put it this way.
True. All right, Alex. Now, can you tell our listeners where they can find you online? So they've listened to this episode. They're really pumped about what you've said about research and usability and, getting to know the customer, understanding what your business is, ensuring that you're relevant and your meaning has purpose in the customers that you're serving currently. So they want to keep in touch with you. They want to follow you. How can they keep in touch with you online? Where can they find you online?
Yeah, I would say LinkedIn is the best way. I mean, I'm active there.
Okay.
And so they can just search Alex Genov and my profile will most likely show up.
Awesome.
And we can connect there.
All right. So we just want to extend our greatest gratitude to you for taking time out of your busy schedule to sit with us today and have this interview. We really gained a lot of insight and great nuggets from the information that you shared with us today. I mean, knowledge is power, and it's just so amazing to touch base with great minds like yourself so that we can share the information with everyone. This podcast is listened to in over 70 countries worldwide, and I know that the information that you've shared will definitely touch the lives of the entrepreneurs and non-entrepreneurs that listen to these programs. So thank you so much, Alex.
Thank you, Yannick. I mean, it's a pleasure to be part of your podcast, and I'm humbled by your kind words. You're too kind.
Now, before we wrap up, we always like to ask our guests, is there a quote or a saying that you like to revert to during times of adversity or challenge that, when you think of that quote or when you repeat it, it kind of just refocuses you and reminds you of what your purpose and your drive is? Do you have one of those?
I mean, in my professional life, of course, is thinking about the customer. Always think about the customer. And Zappos is part of Amazon, and Jeff Bezos is talking about customer obsession. So that's that. And then, as I said, in personal life and so on, it's this idea of just no hacks. People talking about marketing hacks, this hack, that hack. There's no hacks. It's just perseverance and hard work. That's it.
Amazing. All right. So focus on the customer obsession, and in your personal life, just no hacks. Just be dedicated, put in the hard work, and persevere, and you will succeed.
That's it.
All right. Okay. Well, I had fun. Thank you so much again, Alex, for taking time. And for those of you that will be listening to this episode, thank you so much for joining us again for another episode of Navigating the Customer Experience. I'm your host, Yannick Grant. We really appreciate your support of this podcast. Are you ready to grow your business even more? Or improve your leadership skills? Or train your team members in the art of customer service? Give us a call at 305-848-0815 or visit our website at www.yannickgrant.com. That's YANNIQUEGRANT.com. Remember, 305-848-0815 or visit our website at yannickgrant.com. Our new online course, Mastering Customer Experience and Increasing Your Revenue, is now available. The link for this will be on the show notes of each episode starting September 7, 2016. The first 2 modules are free, so hop on over, have a look, and take the steps to increase your revenue.
Thanks for listening. For more awesome resources to take your customer service game to another level, head over to navigatingthecustomerexperience.com. See you next time.